I think, are we?
Yes, fabulous.
Great. Okay. Well, I presume everybody's joined in. So, good evening. Thank you all for joining us. It is day one of the first ever Northern Ireland Repair Week, and you're all very welcome to this online webinar, Mend Your Ways, Stitching Communities and Businesses Together to Create Successful Repair Initiatives. It's my very great pleasure to be your host for this evening. I'm Louise Cullen. I'm BBC Northern Ireland's Agriculture and Environment correspondent. So, all things circular are right up my street. Some housekeeping rules to begin with. I have to let you know that this webinar is being recorded in keeping with the circular theme of tonight. It will be used then by others as a resource for inspiration and insight into this incredible world of repair, reuse, repurpose, and relove. And this webinar is being brought to you by the organisers of the inaugural week, the Northern Ireland Resources Network. Do keep your microphone muted, as it says there, because you know how noisy these things can get. And we will have the facility for asking questions. So do use the Q&A feature, drop your comments in, your thoughts and your questions, and we'll get to them in the course of our discussion towards the end of this evening. And tag us on social media, hashtag Repair Week NI25. Let's get everybody talking about this. So we've got a lot lined up for you this evening. You're going to hear from three leading lights. Mary Fleming is the founder of Change Clothes, who's on a mission to tackle clothing waste at its source, proving that second-hand is not just good, it's grand. You'll also know Angeline Murphy from her appearance in Series 4 of The Great British Sewing Bee. She's a great advocate of repairing and runs workshops throughout the UK as part of Primark Cares. We'll hear too from Jenny Holloway, the founder of Fashion Enter London. She's developed repair initiatives with brands like Patagonia through the United Repair Centre, and she employs almost 60 people. Together, they'll explore how individuals, communities, and businesses embed those circular principles into their choices through repair and accelerate the transformation that is so very much needed. But first, to launch this evening, I'd like to invite Emer Montague, Executive Director of the Northern Ireland Resources Network, to take the screen. Emer.
Thank you very much, Louise, and thank you very much for hosting this event here tonight. Um, I'm just going to give a little bit of background into Northern Ireland Resources Network, who we are, how we got involved in Repair Week, and what we hope to deliver from hosting the inaugural Repair Week in Northern Ireland. So for those who are not aware of us, Northern Ireland Resource Network is a network organisation, and we work with social enterprises, local authorities, community groups and charities to promote reuse and repair as an alternative to the waste generation that we have got currently in Northern Ireland. Within Northern Ireland, we are currently what's known as 7.2% circular. So that means that over 90% of the stuff that we have made is taken and disposed of. And we want to shift the dial on that. We want people to be reducing down, reusing and repairing more of what's created. So in terms of Repair Week, the idea was inspired by an organisation in London called Re-London, which is made up of the Lord Mayor's Office and the Boroughs of London. And they've been hosting Repair Week from 2020. And we came across this idea and were inspired by them to actually host the first Repair Week as a region within the UK. And the reason behind it is that we want to raise awareness of the alternatives to the waste culture. We want to raise awareness of there's opportunities for us to keep things in use for longer and to ensure the items that we have are cherished for longer. And the idea behind the campaign is twofold. One, yes, is about going out to varying activities that are being hosted during the week for people to have items repaired. But some of the events that are organised also give people the opportunity to learn and experience repair. So to give an example, this morning we invited some of our local authority members and they came along to an organisation which is one of our members, Repair and Share Foyle, which has a library of things in Derry, and they all tackled repairing a toaster. So there was a lot of laughter, a lot of fun. but also a lot of learning from undertaking that activity, because toasters and kettles are items that actually get thrown out a lot of the time, and sometimes it's very simple electronic, be it changing a fuse or a mechanical fault that can be easily repaired if people have the know-how. So if we go on to the next slide. So across the week, we have got activities. There's about 50 activities, be it online or in person, across 9 of our council areas. And I said they're going to offer people the opportunity to either have direct hands-on repair experience, or actually going along to get items repaired. And the focus very much on this year is electrical, bikes, textiles and furniture, because these are the areas which are causing most challenge and most items which are being discarded and ending up as waste within Northern Ireland and in the UK. And I'm really delighted that the reason that we're able to host this inaugural week is because we've got funded by DAERA, the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, through the carrier bag levy to undertake this activity. So thank you. And passing back to Louise now.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Emer. You talked there about being inspired by the work that London have done and wanting to build on that drive to reuse and cherish things for a bit longer. Okay, it's taken off in London. This is the first one. How is repair taking off here in Northern Ireland? Are people really enthusiastic about it?
I've actually have to say I have been overwhelmed by the response from our members. So we only decided just at the end of December and notified our members at the start of January that, you know, we were looking to do the inaugural repair week across Northern Ireland. And we have 25 of our members, be it full members or supporter members, that are doing activities. So there's up to 50 activities happening across Northern Ireland. Tomorrow I'll be attending 2 events in Belfast by, one Ulster University called Fixing the Future, and then Queen's University are inspiring their staff and students by having a mini repair cafe and also swap shops and bike repairs on their campuses. So, it's the uptake has not just, as I said, been from our traditional members and the universities, but also it's inspired other organizations to get involved. So we have a number of schools that are taking activities. There's a pre-loved fashion show happening in Dripperstown on Thursday night. And then on Friday at Craig and Country Park, you have a local schools who are coming together with women who used to work in the shirt factories in Derry, undertaking visible mending, but also sharing of skills across multi-generations.
That's lovely, that idea of something that was so prevalent in the past and taking it back into the future nearly. I take my hat off to the council people who are repairing toasters this morning. Full disclosure, I can't wire a plug. I've never been able to wire a plug, and I've been taught countless times. Maybe this repair week is the week that I will finally learn and be able to carry that forward into my future. But Emer, what's your hope for this as the inaugural week? What do you hope will be the change in people's mindset by the end of it?
I think there's a number of hopes out of it. One, which we're already delivering, is raising awareness. The fact is said that we have 9 council areas, 50 activities happening through the week, is raising awareness and the profile of repair. And the second thing is actually, let's make this an annual event. So we've already been having discussions as to, because we did this in such a short time frame for this year, let's then think about what are the learnings we take out of this year to expand next year. And actually next year, could we have this as a shared island event? Or we also connect in with the European network. So we've had tentative, discussions with them to sort of say, is this something that, it started off in London and there's other cities that are now taking part as well. We're the first full region to be doing this, but is there opportunities of expanding this further? So that's what I would hope as a legacy.
And you've got that sort of 4-stranded focus around electrical items, bikes, textiles, and furniture. I can understand containing it to that for this initial week. Would you hope then to expand that further, or is there one that you feel you should maybe hone in on at some point?
I actually would like to expand it into reuse and repair, because some of our members, when we talked to them about it, thought it was very much about repair. Whereas some of our charity shops where, people are selling pre-loved items or maybe swapping items, actually that's just as valuable as repair. So, you know, because we're taking the learnings from another organization, having hosted this historically, but one of the things that we'd like to think about is how we can expand people's mindsets to think, you know, it's not just about repairing items, it's how do we keep all that we have in use for longer.
It's almost like a barter economy, going back to that idea, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, great idea. Well, if I don't know what my skills might be in repair, I'm hoping that I'm going to learn something from this evening and certainly from the rest of the week. But who knows, maybe we'll all be back here this time next year and we'll be trading our skills as well as our information and insights. Emer, thank you very much indeed for that introduction to this first ever Northern Ireland Repair Week. Now, just before we get started with our guests, we've got, as I say, a fantastic discussion lined up for you this evening with our three leaders in this field. But you might have seen a report published by WRAP last week. That's the Waste and Resources Action Programme charity. Now, several resale and repair businesses and brands were involved in this report, and it shows the impact of a range of circular business models, the impact they can have on stopping the purchase of new clothes. So the research found that repairing one cotton t-shirt, a single cotton t-shirt, could save more than 7.5 kilos of carbon dioxide equivalent compared to buying a brand new one. That's just one t-shirt. Repairing a hole in a woolen jumper instead of buying a new one, that could save more than 16 kilos of carbon dioxide equivalent. And repairing a rip in a waterproof jacket instead of buying a new one could save more than 45 kilos of carbon dioxide equivalent. You can see there about a second-hand pair of jeans as well, more than 30 kilos. That's 600 cups of tea. That's an amazing impact to think that that single action of lifting a needle and thread or taking something to a mender could actually have the effect that you can have on the environment by that simple action. Those are pretty staggering figures. I'm sure they're giving you some pause for thought. The report certainly gave me pause for thought reading it. And you'll definitely have plenty of questions for our speakers after you've heard them. Keep in mind that you can pop your questions and comments into our chat box, into the question and answer file that you can see there at the top of the screen. And we will get round to all your questions later on this evening after our discussion. So let's crack on with our guests this evening. I just want to check that they're all here. We have Mary Fleming, Angeline Murphy, and Jenny Holloway. Ladies, if you'd like to give me a yodel that you're all here and waiting, that would be great.
Yes.
Great,
Hi.
excellent. Well, Mary, you are going to be, well, as my French teacher used to say, qui sera ma prochaine victime? Who is my next victim? So, Mary, I'm afraid you're the first up, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. You have a fascinating story. So, tell us all about Secondhand is Grand.
Thanks so much, Louise, and thanks for the French. I'm just learning it on Duolingo at the moment, so good to hear it in real life. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary. I'm the founder and CEO, still hard to say that, of Change Clothes. And my love for textiles, reuse, and community has really shaped everything I do. I'm coming to you from Crumlin in Dublin tonight, but it all started back in 2017 when I began running clothes swaps as part of the Tidy Towns initiative when I was studying dressmaking at night. So what started as a small kind of side project quickly became a passion. And by 2018, I'd moved from a job I really didn't like in the corporate world and volunteering in my spare time to kind of save my sanity into full-time work in environmental nonprofits, which made me even crazier. But then in 2022, I launched Change Clothes Crumlin. It was a one-week event. You know, we never imagined it would become something more permanent, but the demand was there and it just kept growing. And today, now in 2025, Change Clothes is a thriving community, thankfully, of clothing reusers. And we have our reuse hub in the heart of Dublin City. And what we're really trying to do is tackle textile waste in creative and practical ways. And we're trying to make sustainable fashion fun and, most importantly, affordable and social. And we do that through swaps, upcycling workshops, and repair cafes, and a couple of other ways that I'll share with you shortly. one of the ways we keep change going is by working with businesses to run repair cafes and reuse events. And these partnerships bring in much needed income while helping spread the word of what we're doing. And that helps fund our community programs. So for clothes in new to good condition, we have a permanent clothing swap shop. For endless wardrobe refreshes, you can just drop into us and pay €6 to swap your whole wardrobe, or you can be a member for just €60 a year and swap as much as you like. And then we actually have a great partnership with our own local authority here in Dublin city centre as well, where they support us to lend kits out to local community groups who can borrow rails, hangers, signage, tokens, whatever they need to run their own swap event. And then a really important part of our work that we're trying to build on this year, and is thankfully supported by a local insurance group, is that we're redistributing clothing to people who need it most. So we're out in the streets at night in soup kitchens, giving people a choice of the clothes they can choose, and working with homeless services as well to make sure that the people are getting the right clothes they need. And then, of course, the kind of trickier stuff as well is the clothes that need TLC and the stuff that's ready for landfill. Like what can we do with all that stuff, For the stuff that needs TLC, we're doing the free repair cafes at the moment, which are sponsored by a corporate. And then for other things that we do in studio, we do our upcycling and repair workshops, and we kind of do everything from very basic hand sewing up to more advanced machine sewing as well. And you can kind of do one class or a couple and kind of get to know people along the way. Again, the social aspect of it is very important. A big part of our work as well is creating opportunity for people who are long-term unemployed for whatever reason. So this year we started a 2-day-week program with our local development company, and people get a top-up of their social welfare, and they train with us to learn how to repair clothes and upcycle them. And we're just a few weeks into that program now, and it's all very exciting because our trainees are just starting to repair and produce, the first items. And we do back to work traineeships on shorter kind of term as well. So for 6 weeks, maybe for younger people who've dropped out of school. And yeah, all those clothes that are ready for landfill, then we're either repairing or upcycling them into new product, which is on sale on our website at changeclothes.org at the moment. So we face a kind of myriad of challenges running Change Clothes, and of course I love what I do, but I can't lie, it comes with a fair share of ups and downs, and some of them are the kind that keep me up at night, while others just make me kind of shake my head and laugh, I suppose. But I'll give you a quick rundown of the biggest ones. So number one, is when a new t-shirt costs less than repair. One of the toughest battles we face is that fashion can be ridiculously cheap now, and people can buy a brand new t-shirt for less than it would cost to get one repaired, which makes it hard to convince them to invest in fixing what they already have. And we know that repairs are better for the planet, but when money is tight, the cheapest option, usually wins. And at number two, I have the VAT nightmare, which is AKA the 23% problem. We're charged 23% on top of things that, VAT has already been charged on. So kind of stings a bit. While buying fast fashion is often cheaper and tax lower, it's crazy that fixing something is treated as a luxury, We're essentially being penalised for encouraging people to repair and reuse instead of throwing things away. And three is something that a lot of people, I'm sure, can relate to in repair, is the mystery of modern fabrics. Not all clothes are made equal, and that's a big problem for reuse and repair. A lot of fashion is now made from very low quality materials that don't hold up well over time. And we do get donations of fabric, and it's already fallen apart after just a few wears. So the synthetic brands are something we're seeing a lot more of, along with charity shops and anybody working in repair, I'm sure. Number four for us is definitely the big skills gap, because it wasn't trendy to repair for so long, I suppose, and people weren't really learning the skill. So sewing and textile repair, they used to be these basic life skills, but now they kind of feel like a lost art. So when we're trying to expand our services, it's quite hard, I suppose, to find the people with the right skills to actually roll out those services. So that's another reason that we're doing training programs for long-term unemployed people as well. Five, I'm sure everybody's on this webinar kind of is familiar with, that we have to change the perceptions of secondhand. We've come a long way, but some people will still see secondhand as a bit crusty. are only for those who have to buy it, you know, rather than something to be proud of. And our mission really is to make secondhand feel a bit more aspirational, fun, stylish, and creative. And of course, with anything reused, you need space for storing all this stuff, you know. And change clothes has grown so much, but with that comes that constant challenge of having enough space, staff, and resources. We need storage for the donations, space for workshops, and enough hands to keep everything running smoothly. So some days it feels like we're literally bursting at the seams. But I've learned that every challenge, of course, comes with an opportunity to do things differently, think creatively, and push for real change. So if we kind of look at it a different way, you know, number one, we can make repairs worth it. Like, yes, fashion is cheap, sometimes cheaper than getting things repaired, but that just means we need to show people the real value of repairs. And that's like really where, I guess, community events like repair cafes come along. So you're not just getting something repaired, you're meeting like-minded people and building community. You know, it's not about just fixing a rip. It's about keeping that favorite piece of clothing, reducing waste, and learning a skill that can last a lifetime. And with VAT, it's definitely frustrating, but it also gives us something to rally around here when we're charged to know this isn't just our problem, it's part of a bigger issue on how governments prioritise consumption over sustainability. And definitely here in Dublin, we're using this as a challenge to push for policy change that will support repair and reuse. And number three, that low quality clothing equals high impact upcycling. So a lot of fast fashion fabrics don't last long, and some blends are completely impossible to recycle, but that just means we need to get smarter about how we reuse. And instead of seeing them as a problem, we're trying to use those raw materials now to create something new and cool. Like you can repurpose the textiles, turning unwearable clothes into accessories, community art projects, things that bring people together, you know. It doesn't necessarily have to be a new project, it can be a community kind of building experience. So that challenge pushes us to be more creative. And honestly, that's where some of our best ideas come from. With the skills gap, of course, then it's a chance to upskill people who have been long-term unemployed. With shifting consumer perceptions, we get to kind of fight against all those stereotypes together and kind of think creatively about ways that we can go beyond that message that it's good for the planet. You know, it's stylish, affordable, and fun. How can we get people excited about it? Like, what's the message we all want to share together, and how do we build a better future together? And with limited space and resources, I guess that makes us think creatively as well. Like, we might not have endless storage and resources, but what we do have is that growing community of people who believe in what we're doing. And instead of seeing limitations, we can see opportunities to collaborate, and it kind of brings us closer to other social enterprises as well. You know, we're sharing resources, we're running pop-ups together, and we're creating partnerships that help us reach more people as a whole. So every challenge we face is just another way to innovate, I suppose, if we're looking at it kind of from a sunny side up point of view. But in terms of the future of repair, like we need a revolution in how we value clothing. You know, it's not just about fixing clothes, it's about completely rethinking how we consume, create, and connect with fashion. Like right now, repair is seen as almost old-fashioned, but I see a future where it's at the centre of how we dress, shop, and design clothing in the first place. That's key. And it's also, like I've mentioned this a few times, it's a pathway to employment. Like, imagine a world where repair isn't just a service, you know, it's a skill that creates jobs and opportunities. Community development programs have huge potential to train long-term unemployed people in repair and upcycling and turn that lost skill into a thriving green career that supports the green transition that we so need. And I'm excited to see big brands taking responsibility as well, with extended producer responsibility policies gaining traction. You know, we're going to see big brands that will no longer be able to ignore the waste problem. Instead of clothes heading straight to the landfill, they'll have to invest in, well, hopefully we'll have to invest in community-based repair initiatives. So that hopefully means, you know, funding for repair cafes, supporting social enterprises, making sure the clothes they produce actually last as well, which is just the key to it all, really. Instead of fighting against fast fashion, you know, we could be working with producers to turn repair into an industry standard. And I'm also looking forward to seeing the EU Waste Directive implemented. You know, we could really see groundbreaking change there. Clothes marked as waste hopefully won't just be thrown away. Instead, we're going to have those dedicated sub-sorting categories for garments that only need minor repairs. Redirecting them into social enterprises for resale is the dream. And this means instead of, perfectly good clothing being dumped, it could go straight into the hands of people that can fix it and put it back into circulation locally. And yeah, we can look at turning waste into innovation, the whole new next frontier of fashion. Not everything can be repaired, but that doesn't mean that it has to go to waste. So I see the future of fashion really embracing creative reuse in a way that's never been seen before. Like, what about modular clothing that can be easily repaired and swapped out? Different pieces go with different outfits. You have a wardrobe of arms and legs and torso pieces instead of, these bits that come as one piece, and you can mix and match them and repair them as you need. That's kind of harebrained potentially for the moment, or maybe it already exists, but that's something I'd really love to develop with Change Clothes out of Pre-Loved Textiles. I'd love to see a nationwide repair membership model. Like, what if repair was as normal as a gym membership? Kind of a subscription-based repair model could make repair service very widely accessible, with members paying a small fee for unlimited access. And finally, I'd love to see just repair celebrated. So I visited Japan before Christmas, and of course the Sheikah was born there. That's visible mending, and repair is often, like, that visible mending is often worn as a sign of pride in the value you place on the clothing you already own, and it's gorgeous as well. So to see more things like that in Ireland and Europe and the UK would be amazing going forward, and I think we can all kind of come together to make that happen. So I'm excited, and I think all of this is definitely something that's worth getting excited about. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mary. That's fantastic. There's loads there to chat about, so we'll get into all of that in the discussion. And I love the idea of having arms and legs and torsos and putting them together. I think I had a doll like that when I was a kid, where you could put on different bits. But I love that. So thank you so much. But next up, we have Angeline Murphy, who is no stranger to the screen. And Angeline, you're very welcome to our screens this evening to tell us about your repair and reuse journey.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And firstly, congratulations on the first repair in Northern Ireland. I'm delighted to be part of it and flying the flag for Northern Ireland. So it's absolutely amazing. Well done. Yes, as mentioned, I was on the Great British Sewing Bee on Series 4. But how my sewing journey started was by simply the desire to want to turn up a pair of trousers. I was a student, and at the time I didn't have the money to turn up a pair of trousers. So the amount of trousers that I needed, I'm not blessed with height. So I decided I want to learn this skill. Signed up to a 6-week course in Belfast Met, and then took the bug then for sewing, and really, I suppose, then got the desire to want to do more, and understood the skill and how much it opened doors for you in terms of anything's possible. You can create, you can repair whatever you want. So very much after the sewing bee, it sort of gave me a presence to, I suppose, showcase my love for sewing and the importance of sewing and repair to my audience as well. And over since the sewing bee, I have garnered quite an audience on social media just through showcasing simple videos, showing people how to repair and mend or how to upcycle things. So what became a very personal journey for me has expanded into working with businesses like Primark, mentioned previously on their Primark Cares campaign, and public speaking, hosting workshops as well locally here, but also then working with councils too. One, I suppose, significant time for us all, and something that really raised the profile, I feel, of sewing was when COVID hit. And I'll just tell you the little story around it. I had seen a note on Facebook asking people to sew scrubs for the front line, and I decided, yeah, I'm going to give this a go. I went to get some fabric, and it sort of cost me 70 quid for, I think I was going to be able to make 4 sets of scrubs. And I thought, no, my energy might be best used to fundraise. So I used the social media channels to start raising money, to then buy the fabric, to then send out to the different community groups. And for me, this is when I realised that these core skills are needed in a time of crisis. And that's when it really hit home that this is a skill that needs to be saved and encouraged among our community. And I've never seen a group come together like they did for NI NI Scrubs. And then after that, I had partnered with Patrick Grant on the Sewing Bee, the judge, to launch NI Big Community Sew, where we got funding from the government, as well as working with Eurospar as our distributor for the masks. We also worked with TransLink, so we're bringing businesses together into the collaboration of pulling together these masks for the front line. In 2021, I have worked with Joe Malone on a project for the House of Commons on a sustainable linen textile project, which was showcased then at the Garden of Great. Over the years, a lot of my focus has moved very, very naturally to repair, and I can see that as an influence that's coming back to me from social media, because I spend a lot of time online teaching snippets of videos as well. I suppose I was brought up in the countryside, so sustainability for me was very much a natural, a given. Whereas I've realised now that actually it's something we need to bring back in. We need to teach, we need to showcase. And certainly one of the challenges for me, or the opportunities as well, was to teach repair and teach sewing. You'll see on the screen here a group of young girls who we worked on a 6-week project where we took some Charlie Shop finds and recreated them and reimagined them. And there's nothing more spectacular than seeing a group of girls just go for it, or a group of boys just creating something from nothing, really. And it's magic when you go into these groups, because at the start they're all a wee bit shy about what they're going to create, and then after a while their imagination just blows, and what you see them creating afterwards is really spectacular, and it's quite an epic moment. And I also say that, you know, it's because they're maybe not given the opportunity to do it often enough. So when they do, they create something truly spectacular. Over time as well, you know, I've been bringing repair onto my social media channels as well. And you can see I sort of added on some stats there from simple videos that I have created. And that's been the challenge as well, trying to make it bite-sized videos to show people how to repair. But I see my job, it's not my job, but my mission is to really try and simplify repair and make it accessible for people, so that people turn around and go, I could give that a go. Because we just need to get people started to really just have that passion then for wanting to repair rather than throw out. Some of my videos have been seen by millions of people, have been saved by hundreds of people. So they're wanting this content and they're wanting to go back to it. So I think it's a real positive for the future of repair, and the appetite that there absolutely is there for it. If we just slip onto the other slide, over the course of time, been exploring different opportunities. And one thing for us, my husband and I, was the opportunity to bring repair and mending to unexpected places. And keeping, I suppose, in the theme of upcycling and repair, that's my father there at the top left. He had a horse box at home that wasn't being used and was in quite bad condition. But as I say, he's good with his hands as well. So we came together and we upcycled this horse box, and I had this midnight madness in my head saying it could be a repair truck. So we called it Repair, and we brought it on the road. We took it to the Fashion Forever event in Belfast before Christmas. And my aim for this really is to, I suppose, raise awareness of repair, go places where you don't expect to see it. 2 weeks ago, we were in the Boulevard in Banbridge, the outlet, and I got to speak to people who necessarily wouldn't be in repair. I find that repair sometimes is hidden in a home, or it's in a factory, or it's in a shop. But if you bring it to the public, start asking questions, you start talking, there's talkability about it. So it's really about changing mindsets. So repair was something that my husband and I have worked on. A big thing for me as well is that sewing is very much seen as something that the lady does, the woman does. So I'm very keen, my husband, he can sew as well. And I'm very keen to make sure that we have males and females being represented and sewing. So he would be involved in a lot of that too, and some videos as well on my social media. He'd be showing people how to sew too. So it's great, and we have challenges among ourselves. So it's all good. I suppose challenges and opportunities throughout, which I have experienced throughout repair, It's very much changing the mindset of people. And Mary mentioned that, shifting from something that seeing value is, or repair is actual value. Um, People, I suppose, they've lost that emotional connection with their clothes. I find the storytelling of the clothes, there's nothing better than being handed down something that your granny wore and you wear it with pride, but we've sort of lost that connection. So it's really about bringing that back and adding some deeper emotional contact with our clothes. So that I see that as a massive, huge opportunity. And I think everything we are doing here, everything we're doing this week will reinforce that and open the eyes up to people that this is an opportunity and we can do this. So I mentioned about bringing repair to unexpected places. I don't want it to be something that's hidden. I want it to be out. I want people to go, what do you at? What are you doing? Do you know, that sort of a way, that sort of question going. And then you bring them and you show them. When we were in the Boulevard a couple of weeks ago, I just started asking people, can you sew a button? And it was interesting. There was definitely a 50-50 split on can you sew a button. I wanted to dismiss that whole line about I can't even sew a button. I want that to be gone. I want people to be empowered to be able to lift up a needle and thread and just give it a go. I suppose big thing as well over the last number of years, I've been working with Primark Cares on their workshops across the UK, and it's interesting because I have been in Primark stores where you necessarily would not see, you wouldn't expect to see it, and you get comments going, "Oh, Primark are teaching you how to repair." That doesn't add up, but it's interesting how then people are interested in coming along and joining the workshops and learning. So that's a massive initiative that Primark are taking responsibility for and bringing it to their customers to be able to show them how to repair clothes. Um, the repair movement, it will happen, but it will take time. Just like sort of the fast fashion industry moved in over decades, so too we'll have to bring it right back. We need to reframe repair. I mentioned before, it's about valuing your textiles. Last year, I went over to visit Patrick Grant in his factory in Blackburn. I recorded a podcast with him. It's on my YouTube channel if anyone's interested. But we talk a lot about his recent book, Less. And again, he goes in deeply about the love and the deep connection that people just no longer have for their clothes, and how we actually need less. And I do genuinely believe the less we have, sometimes life can be a lot simpler because we have all these things about decluttering and the stress of having too much. So I genuinely believe that if we have less, we probably will be happier because people are stressed about their wardrobes overflowing. Um, Education is key, and it's also about making repair desirable and people wanting to do it. It shouldn't be seen as something that's old-fashioned and not needed. People should take pride in their repairs. They should take pride in extending the life of something. I also think just from sewing and my experience of teaching sewing, there's a massive well-being impact of working with your hands. And I genuinely believe that people are happier when they are working with their hands, and being able to, I suppose, teach that and see the faces on people when they learn to sew or learn to sew a button and you change their mindset going, oh, I might give that a go. I have also recently taken a couple of corporate workshops around team building and wellness. I've taken the sewing machines into recently, they're Allstate in Northern Ireland, and we did a team building workshop where people were sewing up Christmas trees for charity. There were wee Christmas decorations that they could sell on for charity, so it was team building. And I could see a lot of people in the room going, I'm not going near the sewing machine. And then by the end, it was like a competition to who could get on the sewing machine and finish up, and what team had made the most. So it's about bringing that creative element and that sort of competitive element as well to the workforce, and showing people that it can be done and it's not a hidden art. So I suppose just my goal and what I would love to see is that repair becomes as natural as tying a shoelace, and that I have 3 young kids, and I want, my kids can sew, and they're very aware of sewing. Well, Sophia, she's only 3, but she can use the scissors and all, which is great. But I want that next generation to become very natural. And terminology, even in and around the house, "Mummy, can you fix this?" rather than "Mummy, can you buy something new?" So it's just changing that mindset of the next generation as well, and getting in there early, I think, is going to be key. So thank you very much. I'm delighted to be on the panel this evening, and looking forward to any questions there might be.
Angeline, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I have to say, I don't know how clear that's going to come through, but my brother was on the wards during COVID, and I don't know
Oh,
if that's too clear. He's actually on the left. He was in his weightlifting phase, which is why he looks so enormous here. But he does he triathlete now, so he's very different. But these were actually made out of curtains, apparently,
magic.
and that everybody else in the ward is wearing scrubs that were donated and created by people in the public who cared and wanted to help. So that was very much
Yes.
appreciated by everybody I know on the wards. So thank you so much indeed, Angeline. And finally, Jenny Holloway from Fashion Enter London, give us that UK-wide perspective. You've such a story to tell.
Thank you very much. And just to say a huge congratulations to the 2 previous speakers. Like, awesome what you're doing. Absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much. My name's Jenny Holloway, and the company Fashion Enter is a not-for-profit organisation. It was established in 2006. Before then, I was a senior buyer for the Arcadia Group, and I was a buyer for Marks and Spencer's. And I have to say, being this side of the fence, on the manufacturing side, is an absolute eye-opener. And manufacturing has so many skills. I mean, it's just fantastic. I would never go back to buying. There is so much to always learn and do. So we have quite a small team, and we really try and promote internally, because it's just so important to have homegrown talent. And we are very much centered about doing really 3 things: garment production, and we can do 1 sample, or we can do up to 5,000 garments a week. It's really interesting how things have changed. Like, it was probably 2 years ago, we had various factories, and we were making 30,000 garments a week. We are nowhere near that now. And I think that shows us a real step change towards production. I think there's lots of reasons for that. Even 5,000 garments a week now would be a push. We don't have minimums anymore, and I think that's right. You have to be supportive of the smaller brand. And the other area that's really important for us is education. And both of the guest speakers tonight have talked about that skills and the shortages of skills. I'm of that certain age where we did needlework at school, and I wouldn't say I was particularly good at needlework, but I do really think it needs to go back onto the curriculum, because the skills that you use, as Angeline said before, they are so fantastic for mindfulness and community well-being, and so much that you can do with stitching and pattern skills as well. We do have a variety of clients. You mentioned Patrick. We also make the community clothing as well. N Brown and the Very Group, and some brands such as Gormley and Gamble, who's a ladies' wear tailor in Savile Row. So we really want to excel in manufacturing. For all that are on the site today, I often have mentoring sessions with lots of undergraduates, and they always talk about design. They always want to be a designer. But actually, the real skill in being a designer is understanding construction and understanding how pattern pieces fit together. And it is such an art, I can't tell you, and so rewarding. And quite frankly, designers should know about construction and the properties of fabric, because obviously the properties of the fabric will change the actual fits and the pattern themselves. We foresaw a gap with skills in 2010. and we opened up a fashion technology academy. Nothing to do with design, nothing to do with Photoshop or any of those other software packages. This is purely patterns and stitching. And when we looked at the offer, we looked at the skills education group, which was then called ABC Awards, and I was pretty horrified how poor the education was. So there's a great man called John West, who is Director of Skills, and we worked with John to create level 1 and level 2, both awards and certificates in both patterns and stitching. And these are really fit for purpose, right? They work. One is a 5-week course and one is a 10-week course. And you learn so much. We have people from Central St Martin's and London College of Fashion that are fantastic in design, but they don't have those skills. So that's a real plug, especially for Deirdre Williams, who I know shares that value with me. Like, we have to get those skills up and running. And then we do a lot of work for free, actually. Fashion Capital is our core website, and every month we give free seminars with regards to just. Now, I've been in the industry a long time, and if I can stop people making the mistakes that I have made, because no career is linear, then, you know, we really want people to excel and make their businesses a great success. We all know what the problem is, but the problem has got so much worse. We are the second dirtiest polluter on the planet, and people need to take action. At our place in Haringey, we run something called the Factory Uncovered, and we encourage colleges to come. In fact, Deirdre, I do believe you came years ago, didn't you? And we did this review of how garments are made, and to instill that sense of pride. And we must do everything we can to do less. You know, and that is about repair. And Mary, I loved your expression, pride in repair, because I think we should be proud, like we are saving the planet, and we should do as much of that as we can. And it's very interesting. I'm just jumping ahead a little bit, but we make repairs with a fantastic partner called United Repair Centre, and one of those people is Patagonia that we're working for. When we first had repairs from Patagonia, people wanted the same colour on their repair. So if it was a navy jacket that they're very fond of, that they've travelled up the Himalayas with, then they'd want a navy repair. More recently, people are asking for contrast colour. So they might have a red repair, and they might ask for a blue zip. And I think that is showing how important repairs are now, and how proud people are to say, I have repaired my garment. And we're now doing that as well with rucksacks, which is really hard work to unpick a rucksack and put a new zip in. But I just think people are very attached as well to the garments that they have. We recently had a little bit of funding, and we called it Circulate, and bringing back garments as much as possible. But for those out there that are looking for their own businesses, we do find Innovate UK and the Creative Catalyst brilliant for funding. We applied for Creative Catalyst, and we had £48,000 funding, and it made such a difference. And Mary, I know you talked about how hard it is with funding, you know, and it's challenging, because actually all we're trying to do is some good, but it's hard work sometimes. And what we found there was that with Circulate, it gave us the opportunity to work with N Brown. They had 3,000 black trousers that came in, and they were 2 inches too long. So we managed to save all those garments. We had to unpack them, and then, you know, do the template to cut them, restitch them, repress them, and then pack them all again. 3,000 garments saved. So that was like a delight. And then another project that we did was with a company called Bravado, and they had some old stock from the Rolling Stones. And instead of throwing all this merchandise out, we then put old Rolling Stone garments together. So we cut them into half or 4 pieces, and then we created a new T-shirt out of old merchandise. They went into Carnaby Street. They were selling for £65, and they sold out. So even with those T-shirts that you think of old merchandise, that was an event done 5 years, there is so much opportunity. We talk about the 6Rs, which we'll come on to, but there's lots of innovation that can be done now. So I'll go on to the next slide there. And that's what we call our 6Rs of sustainability. I won't go into too much detail with those, but if anybody wants to ask any questions, then please do. But the repair side is what we are focusing on. And Mary made a really good comment about the cheapness of garments coming in. And what we'd love to see, there's all kinds of talks about tariffs at the moment. And we do think that on certain of the garments, that's dinner being cooked by my husband. So excuse me about that. There is all kinds of support that's happening now, but there's absolutely no reason why every single garment can't have a new life in some way. One of the projects we did with M Brown was they had a long sleeve shirt, and we had to cut it off because the underarm was too long. We took every sleeve, we took all the buttons off the sleeves, and then we made the sleeve into a pleated skirt that went all the way around. That's now my dog at the cat flap.
You're being invaded.
Yeah. So everything can be recycled. We took all those buttons off, and we've got a shop actually in Islington. And if anybody out there is listening and they have got their own collections, we'd be very happy to support people and put their collection into a shop. Say you've got a stockist in London. Now, there's lots of things that we can do together, and it is about collaborating as much as we can. So the repair side of our business, we started a year ago, last October, and it has grown and grown and grown to the, I'm not going to say the detriment, but the balance in our factory. I would say we're now up to 33% of our factory is repairs. So that is huge. And fortunately for us, we've got great flexibility with our staff. They are very skilled. So if we suddenly have a rush with Lululemon or Rafa or Mammut, then we can just juggle our staff. So training is absolutely key on repairs. And we actually foresee that repairs will grow to 50%. And we're also looking at opening a repair centre now in Leicester as well. I think there's a video. I always panic about videos because I'm never sure if they're going to work. But here's just a short video about the repair centre when it was first opened. Oh, let's should move that on.
Great. Jenny, thank you very much indeed for that. Really insightful. And thank you to all of our speakers, to Mary and Angeline as well. Let's get into a bit of a chat about all this. There's just so much out of everything that you've told us. We're looking at skills, we're looking at mindset shift, we're looking at communications and creating connections and changing perceptions and everything as well. Let's start with that skills issue. You were talking, all of you, I think, mentioned about learning to sew and talking about access to resources, sewing machines in schools. I mean, I'm part of that generation too, that we did get some sewing training. We had 4 machines and there were 30 girls in my class. I went to an all-girls school and it was basically all out warfare every week trying to get onto the sewing machine to sew together your pajama case in second year, which I actually failed because I had to hand sew it. And I was not that good at hand sewing. And my mother was all for going up to the school and having it out with the teacher because I hadn't been able to get onto a sewing machine. But how do we build the skills without the support? Is this policy shift that we need to start to try to create and get the politicians and governments involved in this, do you think? Any one of you jump in?
I think it starts a bit
Yeah.
with community revolution, maybe.
Yeah. A bottom-up
Yeah.
I
pressure?
think, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think it's going to be like a silent, and it's going to grow. It's going to grow. It'll start within the communities, and then it will then see the policy shift. There will have to be at some point, I think, as mentioned in the video there, as pressure is put on to the fast fashion brands and the pressures that they're going to come under, there is going to have to be a solution. And then that's when things change, I think, when policy changes as well. But I think, again, community first.
And
I should say that with every academy that we have opened, we have done it with the support with the local council. You know, academies are expensive, right? Normally we have 30 people on our courses, level 1 and level 2, timetables, AM and PM, and we will have the best part of 30 to 50 machines in there. And they need to be industrial machines really as well. You know, if you're going to do this properly, of course, by all means have some domestic machines. And, you know, you can do that through growth funds, UK SPF, community renewal. I just think that there are lots of ways forward. And, you know, if anybody needs any help of any level, we would be very happy to support. You know, don't just like treat us as a friend. If we can support you, we will.
And Mary, you're very rooted in your community in Crumlin. That's where it all began for you. Do you see that desire and that hunger for those skills and building it up into a business then at the opposite end of the scale in these huge repair networks?
Yeah, it's funny because Crumlin used to have a big sewing factory, and then kind of whenever he'd run repair events here, he'd be like, "Oh God, it's good to see it back in the community," that kind of thing. Like we did, you know, start in the community with people sharing sewing machines and things like that. But as Jenny was saying, like the local council did like stand up and take attention to what we were doing then and provide us with sewing machines. So I think it's like a stepped thing, isn't it? You know, you make a bit of noise at ground level, get some support then, and just kind of keeps growing from there. And the support changes as time goes by and people believe in you a bit more. But yeah, I kind of, because Change Clothes only started as a week of events, so I really wasn't sure what the reaction would be. But I think the fact that we're still here 3 years later kind of shows, I suppose, the desire to repair and reuse. And I mean, there still is a lot of, we've all talked about it as well, perception change, and especially for working class areas as well, because we still kind of come up against it, especially young people as well working in the area. Secondhand repair wouldn't really be acceptable. You know, you want to be seeing in new stuff. So there's still a bit of work to be done around that. But if we're here sharing a message and giving these resources, then there's no reason why it can't work.
And I think you can always, when somebody's wearing something you've admired it and they say, "Oh, I made this," or "Oh, yeah, no, I changed this, I did this," there's always that little moment of, Wow, that's fabulous, and it makes things unique and special. Jenny, I was interested, one thing that you mentioned about sort of changing your approach to productivity
Hmm.
and changing the amount. I mean, are you measuring a different bottom line in some ways by doing that?
Yes, I mean it's been painful. I would not deny that, because you've got we had a situation where we'd have the overlocker on the overlocker, the lock stitch on the lock stitch, and they were experts at doing a garment, but only a segment of a garment. Suddenly you're unpicking and you're cutting out the repair, you're attaching the repair, and it actually suits us because of our ethics and our social conscience that we are moving to repairs. But it's quite hard from a change perspective. You have to take the whole of the company with you. We haven't made any redundancies during that time. And actually, what we are finding, which is fantastic, that younger people, I would say definitely Gen Z, are so interested in learning repairs. There's a definite move of young people buying vintage, for example, and then reworking a garment, and they're coming to us for that level 1 course, and then they're reselling on eBay, wherever they may be selling, and also selling in our shop as well in Islington. So I think the demand is definitely there. And I think that the more we can push with the repairs, it's going to be better for absolutely everybody.
And you mentioned there about taking the whole of the company with you in a sort of mindset way. Angeline, you
Yeah.
physically take the whole of the company with you with your repair truck. Do you see a kind of country urban divide in people who have these skills, people who want to have them, or people who are fascinated by them?
I don't know if
There
it's
is.
oh, sorry.
No, go, Jenny. Yeah.
All I was going to say, I don't see a regional differentiation, but I do see an age differentiation. I definitely see younger people. We've got a lovely lady called Hannah and Maria, and they're both early 20s. They would never go on a production line, not in a million years, but they love repairs. And I think that new generation's coming through, and I love that, because it's so hard to attract talent. That's why I think some kind of an academy over in Ireland would be such a great thing, and taking it into schools like Mary's been doing, well, both of you have been doing.
Yeah. What about both of you, Angeline and Mary as well? And do you see a sort of lack of skills in one area compared to another? Is it urban and countryside? Is it that household thing?
I think it's certainly a generational thing. I know that you had mentioned that there was a sewing machine in your classroom. Well, I came from the country, but there wasn't a sewing machine in the classroom, and I suppose I only was exposed to it then when I actively went out and was looking for it. Um, I suppose it's a generational thing, absolutely. As time has went on, I know my mummy, everything became faster and more convenient, and I think that it was that sort of convenient stage when food got faster, women went out to work, they had less time. Sort of now we're at the shift. Now I'm a juggling mummy as well, trying to do everything, and repair sometimes can be the last thing you have time for. But that's where I think that mindfulness and that being proud to repair has to come in. It's not just a thing you have to do, but it's a thing you want to do, and you want to keep things in circulation that bit longer and taking that pride into it.
That's certainly something that would resonate with you, Mary.
For sure. And yeah, it's interesting we get people of all ages coming into our workshops. And what differentiates people really, I find, is their experience with their first teacher. We get a lot of older people come in that had terrifying teachers, and that kind of made them hate repair. And then they're coming in saying, "Oh my God, you're so nice! Like I didn't know it could be this way." Like it was just a very regimented way of learning it, and they never went back to it, which is really interesting to see. And there's like that mental block there when you have that bad first interaction with it.
Just goes to show how important that your education side of things is really. We've got a question here, and just to remind everyone, put your questions and comments into the Q&A and we will get to them. But one question's come in here, and actually Deirdre asking for Jenny and for all of you really, I mean, what would be your take on it? How long does the average repair take, and do you have to invest in more trims? And I have a big library of zips and trims and bits and bobs and all that sort of thing.
Yes is a short answer. You do have
Mary's
to
nodding as
invest in
well.
trims, and zips is the big one. So normally you have a you would buy in a zip and it would be like 19 inches, but actually we have very long zips and then we cut them down so that way it's less wasteful. We are very lucky with the brands that we work with, because they will give us old garments, which I think is fantastic. So that means we can cut them up and we can reuse them wherever possible. But obviously threads is a big one. You have to have really good quality threads. We tend to use Coats and Gutermann, and you have to have an absolute archive of those. So it takes time to develop, but it's the right thing to do. And time-wise, you can have a tiny, you know how these puffer jackets, and then if they're climbing, then they sort of get them nipped on barbed wire. It actually takes such a long time with the bevel. You have to cut it all out. You have to sometimes re-wad it. Then you will cut out a new piece of fabric, fold it, insert it. It can take 20 minutes by some of our experienced people, but depending where the tear is, it can take as long as up to 2 hours. There's a lot of garments that there's a lot of complications with the garments. And there has been time there's a brand called CP, which is quite expensive ski wear, and we've got down everywhere. We've got feathers everywhere. So you really, really have to work with each brand to make sure it works as effectively and efficient as possible.
Mary and Angeline, you're both nodding away there. I mean, when you're saying about it taking so long, that must be where that mindfulness and quiet mind thing comes in for everybody doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and definitely, I laugh because it sounds like an operating table. As I say, you're operating with your clothes as well. You don't know what you're getting into until you get into the garment, and then you realise you run into complications. But I suppose there's just that. There's a bit of a, I suppose, an experience and a journey with taking apart a piece of clothing and then understanding the construction of it and how it was put together and then putting it back together again. There's certainly a sense of pride in that. And then just over time, then you just become more skilled with each garment, and then it becomes quicker. So it's a bit of a learning curve and a journey as well. I suppose once you get to know your clothes a bit better, I'm talking about it as if it's a person, but that's how you get that emotional connection to clothing. Once you understand how to operate on the clothes, then it becomes a bit quicker.
What sort of a button and zip and trim collection do you have, Mary?
Yeah, so I guess we're kind of similar to Jenny in that we would get large donations of things and use pockets, zips and buttons and patches from all those things. So kind of building up that archive over the last 3 years, which is amazing, but also, yeah, space.
Exactly. Yeah, back to
Um,
resources. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The kind of journey that Angelina was talking about, I think, is like most celebrated, at repair cafes, where you can go on that journey with other people and talk through the repair process. It's always great crack.
And speaking of those repair cafes, I mean, I've been to some of these repair events, and you can be really lucky and get something fixed sometimes for free and so on, which is great. That's a great way to draw people in, I think. But Moses Fennell from Jamaica is asking Jenny particularly, but I suppose to all of you, how do you work out the cost for repairs? Does it go by hours or the type of garment or any other factors?
It's got to be done by time, and we sort of now have got a listing of what the repair is, So we tend to do 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45, 1 hour and 1 hour plus. And also it depends on quantity as well. So when we did the M Brown trouser, for example, we can take a massive view on that and do it at quite a cost effective price. But anybody that's thinking about doing repairs or sort of that reworking, please get your timings right. It's so easy to make a mistake. And as Mary mentioned earlier, like, if you're going to have a business, don't let it become a hobby or like a labour of love, because you do have to earn money. Your time is valuable, and it's important that you get your timings right.
Yeah, what do you both think then, Mary and Angeline as well? Would you put a price on your repair work?
It's really difficult because repairs start with family, because you can sew, can you turn up these trousers or can you darn my trousers? So it always starts with family and then friends. And I think then once you turn it into a business, it becomes absolutely different. As Jenny says, you need to take into account your materials, your energy costs, your time, and that's, I think, the challenge that we absolutely have in terms of the price somebody maybe paid for a garment versus the repair cost. And I definitely think we can't sell ourselves short in terms of the skills that we have and the skills that people are developing, because them skills take time to learn. And you just have to make sure that you're charging right and you're putting food on the table. I suppose at the end of it is what it's all about. So it is hard to put a figure on it. And I suppose as you get more experienced, you can get quicker too.
Yeah, put a bit of value on the energy you're using and the energy you're using of yourself as well.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Mary as well. I'm sure you must, when you started out, you maybe didn't think it would be as big as it is. Has that been a daunting thing to grow, change clothes?
Definitely, yeah. I only kind of started working on it full time in the middle of last year, as an actual employee. So there was 2 full years where I was working full time and doing change clothes, to try and make ends meet, because it is difficult to cost these things when you start them in community and to actually start making it viable as a social enterprise. So the only thing I think that's really kind of held the whole thing together over the 3 years has actually been volunteers and their generosity of spirit and skill, like having those skilled repairers in the community giving their time and energy and donating materials as well has kept the whole thing alive. And yeah, now I guess we're trying to take to that next level where it can stand on its own 2 feet and fund itself. So the journey keeps going, but you kind of never know, like year on year, how it's going to go. But we're hoping in the next year or two to move from the studio in the city centre to a warehouse in the local area, which is seeming like it's going to happen. So we'll hopefully have that big reuse centre where clothes can be reused no matter what state they're in. So the pace of change is pretty rapid.
That's fantastic. And there does seem to be a real collegiality in the repair community where everybody wants to support and help everybody else. So I suppose it's about trying to create that mindset shift and that change in perception in the wider community. So how do you communicate that? Is it as simple as, saying, "Oh, I made this," and or like Angeline, you do so much social media and so on. Is it that changing nature of communication and PR and advertising?
Yeah, my background is actually in marketing as well, and I suppose I have that sort of hat on too. And I think absolutely that the power of storytelling has to come into it, and the power of pride, and bringing people along the movement in terms of repair. But it's also about getting that next generation as well to come along, because I would actually teach a lot of classes where it's like parent and me classes, where the parent comes along with their child because they can't sew either, but they want to know. So there's nearly that they're learning together, because it was that skip generation that didn't get them skills, that don't have them skills, but have an interest, or they're aware that they want their child to know how to sew. So I think that's lovely as well. So it's just about constantly beating the drum, and what do they say, like a constant drip doesn't it wear the stone,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Mary, what about you? Kind of changing, bringing other people with you as well?
Yeah, like we do a lot of work with younger people who might have, dropped out of school or come from, I guess, low income backgrounds in the local area and elsewhere. So there are hearts and minds still to be changed. I know there's a lot of talk about like how young people are driving the change, buying vintage and things like that. But for people kind of on a lower budget, I suppose it still can often be kind of seen as embarrassing. So there's a lot of like engagement that has to happen around that. So we tend to bring people into our studio. They have access to all these amazing pre-loved clothes. They're learning skills and learning that it's normal, it's fun, it can be a really great social thing. So just making it normal for people that otherwise wouldn't have had the chance to know that, because it's not the norm in some places.
Yeah.
And so like taking the time and energy, I suppose, to engage with people who are far removed from it being the norm, I think is really key, rather than just focus on people that are already engaged in it. But that it does take a lot of extra time and resources, but it's worth it.
Yeah. And Jenny, you were nodding there. You've made that big shift from sort of corporate to a kind of a different mindset as well. And how have you conveyed that? I mean, you've grown the company hugely. How have you conveyed that and infused everybody around you?
That's a really good question. I know it's really simple, but every Monday we have a WTM, a weekly team meeting with each of the sections. And at one point we had a retailer, an e-tailer that we were making 5,000 garments a week for. And then it sort of dried up, and it was actually very, very sudden. And, that was the best part of 200K a month coming in, and then you have nothing. I mean, that is a really, really scary situation to be in. And we absolutely did not want to make one person redundant, because it wasn't their fault that the e-tailer had changed their mind. So we started looking at new avenues, and I honestly believe that honesty is the best policy in life. When I was a senior buyer, I just used to hate all the power meetings that there used to be, and you're all around a table and all the politics. Like, I'm just not good at that. And so when we talk to the staff, we tell them the truth. Like, we say, this has happened, like, we've got to move as one. And I think that if you're honest, with who you're working with, and, there's been times when, CEO is just a name, it's just a label. I will skip being paid on many occasions in the past, over the last 16 years, because the staff have to come first, like that they have given everything. But I honestly believe that eventually, like, good comes of something. If you're being honest and you are reliable, your team will go with you. Many of our sort of directors have been with us from the beginning. They're homegrown talent. We're blessed with having a great team, and we do make those decisions as one. We're not dictatorial, and I actually really want people to embrace mistakes. Like, I know that sounds mad, but we all make them, and that's how we learn. And so that's that movement of change.
Great, thank you very much. We've had a question come in here. I'm conscious the clock's ticking, but we've still got about 10 minutes, so we're doing okay. Keep the questions coming as well. Anne wants to know, she says, it's not a repair query, but about sewing. Is there any concern about the fabrics used and their effect on the environment? She said, Angeline, she saw you were wearing an all cotton community clothing t-shirt with the prevalence of athleisure. Is there an answer to the impact of manufacturing certain fabrics and their seemingly endless lifespan? That's maybe a slightly different take on things. What do you think?
Yes, I suppose that and maybe Jenny might actually be more aligned to this question in terms of manufacturing, but I think there definitely is sort of more scrutiny as well coming on to fast fashion brands in terms of the start and thinking about their resources, where it came from, how it was made, moving towards even 100% cotton, 100% organic cotton, using, I've seen actually what a lot of the fast fashion companies now are doing are trying to introduce more embroidery into their production rather than vinyls because it's harder to break down. So there is definitely changes that being made in manufacturing processes that I think you need to think start to end. So how does the product start and how's it made? And then how do we extend the life of it? So the manufacturer will have to start considering it from start to end of life as well.
We've got to keep people in employment and so on as well. What about you, Jenny and Mary? Any thoughts on that idea of like permafabrics nearly?
It is a really hard one, actually. It's a very good point because, there's a lot of garments in that sort of cheap fashion area, fast fashion, where they're polyester based, and polyester are difficult with decomposing. You also have a lot of mixed fibres, which makes, again, recycling incredibly difficult. I went to Amsterdam a couple of years ago, and there's this massive machine called Fibersort, and they have almost like space age glasses whereby when the garments are going through, they sort them by colour and they sort them by fibre. But then there was a huge issue with mixed fibres. It would be great if we could have a move towards natural fibres such as the cottons, the wools, and I don't know if people realise, but viscose is actually wood pulp. So it is therefore regarded as a natural fibre. It's a man-made natural fibre. But that's how sort of one of the reasons why these fast fashion brands are so competitive on price, because those fabrics are almost indestructible, that they're cheap with very high twist yarns in them. So, anybody who's buying new garments, please have a look at that composition label because that really is important. It does define recycling.
Yeah. And have you any final thoughts there, Mary, on that? The idea of permafabrics?
I guess just as a reuse, so we have to be really careful about the message we send out because we're offering these reuse solutions for these permanent fabrics. Are we encouraging people to buy more because there's a reuse? I kind of worry about that at night sometimes. Like, is that what we're encouraging when we're saying, yeah, sure, you can swap things out anyway, and repair and reuse them. So yeah, that's definitely something I think about in Change Clothes' messaging, is that we don't want to encourage more purchasing as a result of what we're offering. Like, are we giving people an out in terms of buying these fabrics?
Well, as I say, the clock is ticking. There, just see a comment in there, and I'd just love a very brief answer from each of you on this. Una McNally saying, with 400 nursing students last year, they tried a pre-loved uniform initiative this year, but the new uniforms are so cheap, there was very poor uptake, and she would love some advice. So if we could get literally 10, 15 seconds on how to generate a bit of enthusiasm for something pre-loved.
I think I can go first. I think it's a communications thing as well, and encouraging people and making it desirable that people want to wear these pre-loved scrubs. I suppose each one of these scrubs have a story to tell as well, so it's maybe showcasing maybe the stories them scrubs have been on, and then there's pride in actually wearing these scrubs and sort of bringing them on to an extra life. So I think it's really about communications, bringing people on that journey and wanting them to having that want to buy, to get second hand rather than buy new.
Mary, quick 15 seconds from you.
I think there's just a bit of consistency with things as well. Sometimes things don't work out the first time, but if you keep at it, I think eventually, people will want to take part if you really keep drumming that message home. I mean, communications again, but keep doing it.
And Jenny, just to wrap up.
Traditionally, scrubs don't fit very well. We have made scrubs, there's no darts, that they're male and female. So as something completely different, why don't you think about buying pre-loved and then changing them, like making them fit, put darts in, you can scoop out the side seams, you can put splits in them. It would be great to sort of take that as a project to make them more desirable.
Great. I think you've got a few ideas there, Una, so I hope that's helped. And I'm afraid the clock has just about beaten us here. I'm getting a little warning that we're down to about 4 minutes now. So my heartfelt thanks to our guests this evening. I'm sure you'd all like to join me. If we were all in person, we'd be applauding. Mary Fleming, Angeline Murphy, and Jenny Holloway. Thank you all so much. And thank you to all of you for joining us from wherever you have joined us. My personal thanks to Deirdre Williams for all her hard work in pulling this together, and to Emer Montague for the opportunity to be your host this evening. I'd just like to invite Emer, Executive Director of the Resources Network, back to the screen to close the event. And don't forget, there's a lot going on this week, so get out and get repairing. Emer, if you'd like to come back to the screen.
Thank you very much, Louise. And Louise, I'd just like to echo your thanks in terms of Deirdre Williams, Stitch Saves 9, for helping pull together all of the fabulous speakers. You know, I thought I knew stuff about textiles and repair, but what I've learned this evening has just been fascinating. Louise, thank you for I always feel so safe when you are hosting because you just carry it so beautifully. So thank you so much. There is a range of events happening on during the week, so please do go onto our website and check out www.ni-rn.com. We've got all of the details of activities that's happening there during the week. We are trying to encourage everyone to take part in repair during the week. So if you are doing any creative or collaborative repair, do take photographs, do post it using the hashtag RepairWeekNI25. And at the end of the week, we're going to compile these and look to see which we find is the most collaborative or creative. And there's £250 worth of repair vouchers available for that. But just really want to thank everyone who attended today. And again, echoing my thanks again for the speakers. Just really, really enjoyed the event. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
to